Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. My name is James Petham and today I'm joined by Drew Zimmerman, CEO of Stallion Uranium. They trade on the Venture Exchange under the ticker STUD, STUD. Drew, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here with you, James.
So I want to maybe kick things off with some recent news you'd put out. Obviously, you're known for your work putting together this massive land package in the southwest Athabasca. So walk us through this latest deal.
Yeah, the latest deal was actually us optioning off a gold and antimony project that we've held that's been in central Idaho for some time. So for us, we've been knowing that there was going to be a lot of catalyst for that project that was tied to the district and especially our neighbor, Perpetua Resources. And those have started to really come to fruition in a very big way. So with this, we're optioning off 80%, so maintaining a 20% carried interest, which gives our shareholders a lot of upside potential. But we're also getting up to $2.2 million in cash and equity of the partners that are going to take it on and do $5 million worth of work commitment over the next 4 years as well. So for us, it's being able to get some money up front, but being able to see the upside potential of this project with our 20% carried interest, plus the equity payments that we'll have, and have somebody else advance it, because our time, energy, and capital was being spent on the Athabasca Basin. That's where we're doing our work. So it really shows our focus is on the uranium side in the Athabasca Basin, but gives us and our shareholders a lot of potential with the gold and antimony project moving forward with somebody else doing that work.
Great. Thanks a lot for that overview, Drew. I guess let's talk about the Athabasca Basin. You've been exploring there, your largest drill program, maiden drill program, around 6 months ago when we spoke at PDAC. That was just getting going. Walk us through, what did you see in that program? You've identified some targets. What are the next steps?
Yeah, it was right at PDAC. We're kicking off that maiden drill program. It was going to be the first 3 drill holes in our 3,000 square kilometer land package. So again, just how underexplored that Western Basin is. But it was a huge success for us. I mean, for the first 3 holes of any company, always risky. You're targeting geophysical targets. And this area that we were going after, 700 meters to the unconformity, so at depth. But we had anomalous radioactivity in all 3 holes. So again, very good things to be able to see. And it was our 3rd hole that was a huge success and really will lead that program forward, where we intercepted the graphitic conductor, so the plumbing underneath the uranium deposits in the Athabasca Basin. So we now know exactly where that structure is. We know it's a big structure. We know it had uranium-bearing fluids running through it. So for us to be able to have a follow-up drill program there is very exciting, because we were able to learn a ton about that target. And the other key to this target is 13 kilometers to the west is Shea Creek, which is owned by Uranium Energy Company in Orano. And they've got over 500 drill holes there. So we're able to take a lot of the data that they saw and analog it to our 3 holes. And learn a lot from those. So it's a wealth of information that we were able to get out of that first drill program.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that's a great asset to be able to data share in that manner. I imagine it's also a bit of a blessing and a curse having such a huge land package. I didn't realize it was that enormous, 3,000 square kilometers. So when you're just starting out, I guess it gives you a lot of that blue sky potential, but also in terms of focusing your efforts. I understand there was some surveying work done at the end of or around PDAC last year. You were just going through the data. There's also surveying work ongoing at the moment at your JV project with Atha Energy. What are the goals of that surveying? Is there going to be more drilling done there? What are the terms of that JV agreement as well?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head when you start with 3,000 square kilometers. It's a massive land package, and that was our strategy, was to say, we think this area is just as well endowed as the East. It's just not effectively explored for. So we were running, first of its kind surveys over most of our land package. And a lot of that, what we've dubbed as our, exploration funnel. How do you do the big regional work and then focus down on more defined surveys and then eventually ground surveys and drill testing? So as we sort of do the big regional work, which we've done now over that whole area, we're able to highlight, and we have 9 tier 1 targets in the Southwest to say, these are very prospective potential targets, and then we want to continue to upgrade those. So the more recent HeliSam survey that I think you're alluding to was upgrading our fishhook and 5 of diamonds target. So again, it's one of the areas that we've identified from the big high level survey. And now let's get a little bit more focused in on it and get a little bit more precise. And then again, we'll be able to upgrade that further with potentially ground survey and then drill testing. So for us, it's, we have a very advanced target in Appaloosa where we want to go and have our follow-up drill program where we think we can make a discovery, but also bringing along some of these other tier 1 targets to drill readiness as well. So a lot of potential with the land package that we have.
Great. And so in terms of timelines for that follow-up drill program, so Appaloosa is going to be the main focus, but walk us through the other work that's being done at these 9 targets and when can people expect that program to begin?
Yeah. So again, the HeliSam is part of that upgrading work that's happening on Fishhook. Coyote is another highly ranked target that we have that we want to continue to upgrade. So for us, our focus will be getting back and doing that follow-up drill program in the new year at Appaloosa. We think that has discovery potential, which for a junior explorer like us is an absolute game changer in the Athabasca Basin with how high grade and how big these deposits can be. If we have a discovery hole that's easily a significant re-rate for us overnight, always very exciting. And then, like I said, bringing up the other targets at the same time. So it's a little bit of back and forth with, drilling being a little bit more advanced, but then also being able to do some more advanced ground surveys so that we do have, a sort of continuous pipeline working through that funnel that we've outlined so that we've always got drill targets and very prospective drill targets to be able to go after.
Okay, great. And walk us through, paint a picture, what's it like to explore in this part of the basin, infrastructure-wise, cost-wise? What do both those things look like?
Yeah, I mean, part of our thesis has been, this is what the Eastern Basin looked like in the 1980s. So, we have, fortunately for us, world-class deposits in Triple R and Arrow in the Southwest Basin that are about to go into development. These are world-class assets. They're going to see $1 billion worth of infrastructure come to our area. So again, we think the Southwest is going to start to get upgraded just as the Eastern Basin did in the 80s. And really, we can kind of ride the coattails of that, so to speak. But already, we have an access road that went all the way up to the old Clough Lake mine. There are camps that we can utilize up there, First Nations partners that have camps that we can work out of. And again, with a lot of the work that we were doing early on is airborne. And now that we're going in and doing, on the ground surveys and drill programs, we're utilizing those infrastructure setups a little bit more. But again, it's going to be an area that we think just continues to develop and will allow the exploration work that we're going to do in the coming years to just get that much easier to accomplish.
Okay, fantastic. And since PDAC, you raised a bit of money. What's the Treasury looking like at the moment? Are you fully financed through the rest of this exploration program? Are you going to look to raise again beforehand? How are things looking?
Yeah, right now we're fortunate with the gold transaction that we're in the process of closing right now. That'll put us a little over 2.3 million in the Treasury. So a good Treasury to be able to sit on, a fortunate position. And as we go into the beginning of New Year, our drill program will likely be in that sort of range. So, the potential to take advantage of market conditions if they're there to raise some more capital. But again, we're in a good position to be able to, wait and see how things develop near term because we just see such a strong fundamental move in the uranium market coming. We continue to get better and better headlines, it seems like every week, that we think we'll start to move spot prices in a pretty meaningful way. And again, it's needing to have these new discoveries to keep this nuclear renaissance going. And it's junior companies like ours that will make that happen.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year for uranium. I mean, the start of the year we had prices pushing $100 a pound. Cooled off a little since then. I think we're at around 80, just over $80 a pound spot uranium, but still in the context of the last few years, high prices, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like that value has trickled down yet to the junior space. I guess, in your view, maybe what needs to happen for that value to go all the way through the chain? And I guess, what's your investment thesis for uranium at the moment?
Yeah, no, good question. And, I think like any commodity, we saw it come from, the $40 mark, run very aggressively all the way up to 106. So to have it pull back to 80 and really sort of flatline around that area for the last couple of months and looking like it's going to pick back up. Well, at the same time, the important thing is not the spot price, but the longer term contracting price. And that has continued to just move higher throughout this year. So that's a big positive for the overall thesis of uranium continuing to move higher. And with all the demand side building and still, supply issues, we continue to think that there's just going to be all of a sudden a wave that comes back into the spot market, and it's small and it's opaque, and then it'll start to move again. And once it starts to move, uranium buyers, have to sort of just deal with it and start chasing it higher. And we think that will really push prices a lot higher. So if you're looking at the developers and producers in Canada, they ran to recent highs or all-time highs at the beginning of the year and into the summer. They had a very, sharp pullback over the last couple of months. But if you look at the last month of those developers and producers, they've started to do incredibly well again. And that's just the underlying thesis in uranium continues to get better week in, week out. So again, we think that it's the producers and developers need to run first. That's where, the bigger capital flows into. And then when people start to look for more opportunities in the sector, that's when you start to look down at the junior market cap explorers. And again, it's a small market space, so it doesn't take a lot of capital to start coming into the juniors. Where you start to see them move. And once they start to move, they can move very, very quickly. So we tend to move last, but we also tend to move the fastest.
Thanks a lot for that overview, Drew. And I think it is interesting. We're starting to see maybe nuclear energy and uranium enter more into the mainstream news. I was reading a headline today about Microsoft getting involved with restarting the 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor. I guess, in your view, are we seeing more of a demand side growth here, or is it still some of these supply constraints that were maybe being talked about earlier in the year that is really driving this uranium focus?
Yeah, I think we're seeing both, which is why I think the underlying narrative is so compelling. So as you said, Microsoft signing a deal to turn 3 Mile Island back on, that is a nuclear site in the United States that probably has the worst connotations for sentiment. And for Microsoft to come in and say, we don't care, we're going to turn it back on and everybody's going to applaud it and support us, I think is just a show of how strong the pro-nuclear sentiment is moving forward. And on the back of that, we just saw Google even more recently saying they want to build SMRs. We had Oracle saying they wanted to build out SMRs. We had AWS already, with the Talon Energy deal powering. So again, it's a new urgency coming to the nuclear demand space for the AI data centers. When you always had, big bureaucratic governments saying we're going to build a nuclear facility, it could be a decade later. Yeah. When you have big tech saying we want to build a data center and we want to power it, now in relative terms, it's going to happen a lot faster. And they've got the capital and the smart people behind it to be able to make it happen faster. So I think that's an incredibly compelling side of the story, because when we look at our supply demand figures when we go out the next couple of years, they're not even encompassing that demand side. And again, that's the private side. And we've got Japan continues to turn on and restart reactors. We're now getting headlines that the CDU-CSU party in Germany, that had shut down all their nuclear reactors. Again, one of the countries that was most against nuclear, saying that we could turn on 6 to 8 nuclear reactors when we come back into power in their federal election next year. So that's very real, near-term, sizable demand that would honestly be a bit of a demand shock to a market that is already undersupplied. So it all sort of points to higher prices, and potentially drastically higher prices is sort of the two most probable outcomes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of exciting catalysts, and I think certainly more action in the near future in the uranium sector.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we like. Being in the sector that has a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm behind it is somewhere that we love to operate, and we love to engage with our shareholders that are excited about the work that we're doing, because again, it ties into being able to keep this nuclear renaissance going, because we need the big deposits that we're looking for. That's as simple as it is. So it's a great place to be in, a great sector to be working in.
Well, just to wrap up, I guess in your view, maybe what sets Stallion apart from some of the other exploration stories out there, and why is now an interesting time for a prospective investor to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one, we started with a great location, right next to NextGen, the recent discovery of F3, uranium energy company, Orano. But we have a big land package that with our team, we put a great team together, went through this land package and picked out great targets. And that gave us our Appaloosa. And I think the most compelling thing right now is our next drill hole could be a discovery hole. And the last time we saw that happen in the Southwest Basin was F3 uranium. They went from 25 million to 150 on the back of that hole. So, that is a very compelling place for us. We've done a lot of work to get here. Some of that is always not so exciting when you're talking about, big geophysics surveys, but that's the work that has to get done to give you the probability and the confidence to be able to drill like we're going to be able to drill. That could be that discovery hole that then, really changes the game for us. So that's going to be a very exciting piece. And then, as we mentioned at the top, we sort of have that free call option on gold and antimony. Obviously, antimony very topical right now with China not allowing any more exports of that critical mineral. So again, it's sort of an extra valuation sort of piece that we have built into Stallion that's a unique piece to our story compared to some of the other uranium explorers.
Fantastic. Well, Drew, looking forward to seeing some more updates from this follow-up drill program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here, and thanks for having me.